The person I love most in the world called me at 2 in the morning. She was at a police station, accused of a crime she couldn't remember committing. Her husband, a respected tech CEO, had proof. For me, an investigative journalist, this wasn't just a nightmare. It was a declaration of war. My name is Chloe. I am 35 years old, and I work as an investigative journalist for the Veritas Post here in Portland, Oregon. My entire career is built on digging, on finding the one loose thread that unravels a complicated lie. I thought I was unshockable. I was wrong. The call came at 2:17 in the morning. It sliced through the dark silence of my apartment. A shrill, digital scream. I fumbled for the phone, my heart already hammering against my ribs before I was even awake. Maya. The only sound that came back was a breath, a wet, ragged gasp that sounded like it had been torn from her. It was the sound of ultimate terror. Chloe! Her voice was broken. Chloe, I'm at the police station, the Tualatin precinct. Evan. Evan says, he said I stabbed him. I sat bolt upright, the blankets sliding to the floor. The air in my lungs turned to ice. Tualatin, the suburbs, Evan's world. What are you talking about? Maya. That's insane. He's here, she sobbed, the words tumbling over each other. He's hurt. There's blood. Maya, slow down. Tell me exactly what happened. I don't know, she shrieked, and the panic in her voice was so raw it made my own hands start to shake. That's why I'm scared. This wasn't my sister. My sister was quiet, gentle. My sister was the one who rescued spiders from the bathtub. I was already out of bed, my feet hitting the cold floorboards. Okay, I'm coming. Just sit tight. No, Chloe, wait, she whispered, and her voice dropped, becoming thin and terrifying. They have proof. He showed them something, a picture, or a video. Chloe, I don't remember. I swear to God, I don't remember holding a knife. A cold dread washed over me, colder than the sweat on my skin. Evan Cole, her husband, the golden boy, CEO of Oratech, Portland's tech darling, the pillar of the community who chaired fundraisers and got glowing profiles in the local magazines. I knew him as something else, a man who needed to control every room he was in, every person, especially Maya. I had seen the way he isolated her, the casual put-downs disguised as jokes, the constant monitoring, but this was a different kind of war. Maya, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, analytical. Listen to me. Don't say another word to them. Ask for a lawyer. They said I don't need... A new voice cut through the line, sharp and male. Ma'am, you need to get off the phone. Now. The call ended. I stood in the darkness of my room for 1 second, just one, letting the silence ring. Then I moved. I didn't panic. I compartmentalized. My brain shifted from sleep to work, the way it always did when a story broke. Jeans, sweatshirt, sneakers, keys, wallet, phone. I was out the door in less than a minute. My car cut through the empty, rain-slicked streets of Portland. The city was asleep, peaceful, unaware. I drove toward the suburbs, my mind racing, sorting possibilities. A setup he'd planted evidence, a violent sleepwalking episode. It didn't fit. The memory gap was the piece that didn't fit. I don't remember holding a knife. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I flashed back to the last time I saw them together, a company party at their sprawling, sterile house a month ago. I'd watched Evan watch Maya. He never took his eyes off her. It wasn't protection. It wasn't even love. It was ownership. A cold, possessive stare that cataloged everyone she spoke to. I'd had a bad feeling then, a knot of unease I couldn't name. Now it had a name. I pushed the car faster. The quiet suburban streets of Tualatin felt wrong, predatory. That bad feeling I'd had was no longer a quiet warning. It was a siren, screaming in my head. The Tualatin police precinct was unnervingly quiet, bathed in the sickly green-white glow of fluorescent lights that hummed just at the edge of hearing. The air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. It wasn't the chaotic hub I'd expected. It was something worse settled. I saw him immediately. Evan wasn't in an interrogation room. He was in the waiting area, sitting on a hard plastic chair like a concerned guest. He was wearing an expensive dark gray cashmere sweater. My eyes snapped to his arm. One sleeve was cleanly cut away, revealing a pristine white bandage wrapped tightly around his forearm. He was sipping from a paper cup, looking anguished and worried as he spoke in low, earnest tones to an older officer with a salt and pepper mustache and a name tag that read, Barnes. My adrenaline surge from the drive was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp focus. This was my job, assessing a scene, reading the room. And this room was wrong. I walked to the front desk, my shoes squeaking on the linoleum. The officer on duty, a young woman with tired eyes, looked up. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Maya Cole, my sister. She called me." The officer's face softened with a practiced, patronizing pity that made my stomach clench. "You're the sister, honey. Yeah, she's being processed right now." The sound of my voice made Evan look up. His eyes widened, and he stood, arranging his face into a mask of tragic relief. "Chloe, thank God you're here." He walked toward me, careful to present his bandaged arm as a testament to his suffering. I don't know what to do." She just snapped. I didn't move. I didn't respond. I just watched him. He kept talking, the words smooth and rehearsed. He was selling a story. "She's been so stressed from work. Just completely overwhelmed. I think she was drinking. It all happened so fast. She came at me. I was just trying to protect myself, to calm her down." Sergeant Barnes had ambled over, his expression one of paternal concern directed entirely at Evan. He placed a hand on Evan's shoulder before looking at me. "It's a tough situation, ma'am, but we have visual confirmation. It's pretty clear-cut." Visual confirmation. The words echoed Maya's panicked cry. "They have proof." I turned my gaze from Evan, dismissing him completely, and locked eyes with Barnes. My voice was flat, devoid of the panic they expected. "I want to see my sister. Now, and I want to know where her lawyer is." Barnes's friendly demeanor vanished. He clearly wasn't used to being challenged, especially not at 3 a.m. by a woman who looked like she'd just rolled out of bed. His eyes hardened. "She hasn't requested a lawyer," he said curtly. "Then she is requesting one now. I'm her sister, and she's not saying another word without counsel." "She's in a holding cell," he snapped, annoyed at the disruption to his tidy narrative. "You can have 5 minutes. That's it. And you're not her lawyer." "5 minutes is all I need," I said. He jerked his chin toward a heavy steel door, and the young officer from the desk got up to buzz me through. As I walked past Evan, he reached out, his uninjured hand aiming for my arm. "Chloe, please, we have to help her." I pulled my arm back as if he were diseased. "Don't you ever touch me," I said, my voice low and vibrating with a rage I couldn't afford to show. His mask of concern faltered, just for a second, and I saw what lay beneath it, cold, reptilian satisfaction. I stepped through the steel door. I didn't need a lawyer to tell me what had just happened. The lines were drawn. They had already picked their side. Evan was the credible, wealthy victim. Maya was the hysterical, unstable wife. The battle was already over in their minds. But for me, it had just begun. The officer unlocked a heavy steel door and gestured me through. The holding area was just a small, windowless box painted a depressing shade of concrete gray. It was freezing cold. Maya was on the bench, curled into a tight ball, her arms wrapped around her shins. She was trembling, a constant, low-grade vibration. She looked impossibly small, swallowed by the sweatshirt she was wearing. One of Evan's. The lock clicked shut behind me, a heavy, final sound. Maya's head shot up. Her eyes were huge in her pale face, the pupils dilated to black pinpricks, swimming in confusion. "Chloe!" She uncurled and lunged at me, grabbing the front of my jacket. Her hands were ice cold, her knuckles white. "Chloe, I didn't do it. I swear, I didn't. You know me. I wouldn't hurt anyone. I wouldn't hurt him. I don't know what happened." "Shh. I know. I know you wouldn't." I held her, trying to rub some warmth into her arms. She felt clammy. This was the moment I had to stop being just her sister. I had to be the journalist. I pulled back slightly to look at her face. Evan had said she was drinking. I leaned in, discreetly smelling her breath. There was no alcohol, not a trace, only the metallic, sour scent of pure panic. But it was her eyes that told the real story. They weren't drunk. They were foggy, disconnected. She wasn't fully present. "Maya, I need you to listen to me," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "I need you to tell me the last thing you remember, the very last thing, before all of this." She squeezed her eyes shut, as if trying to physically force the memory to the surface. We were home. I had a headache, a really bad one. It had been pounding all day." Her voice was a raw whisper. "Evan was being so nice. He said he would get me something. He made me tea." A single sob escaped her. "He said it was his special herbal blend, the one from that little shop, to help me relax. He brought it to me. I was on the couch." "Okay," I said, my own pulse quickening. "You drank the tea. Then what?" "I felt weird," she said, her eyes opening, wide and lost. "Really dizzy. The lights felt too bright, and the room started to spin. It was hard to breathe. I remember thinking I should just close my eyes for a minute. Just 1 minute." She was shaking her head, the tears flowing freely now. "That's it, Chloe. That's the last thing, I swear. That's the last thing I remember." "And the next?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Shouting," she choked out. "Loud, angry, a man's voice. A cop. He was yelling. 'Drop it, drop the knife.' I looked down." Her gaze dropped to her own trembling, empty hands on my jacket. "It was in my hand, Chloe, the big carving knife. And Evan was on the floor. He was by the kitchen island, and he was bleeding. He was looking at me, and then the police grabbed me." The pieces slammed into place in my mind with the force of a physical blow. The tea, the dizziness, the memory gap. It wasn't alcohol. It was drugs. He had drugged his wife, my sister. He had incapacitated her. "Maya," I said, my voice suddenly sharp, analytic. "The proof. Barnes said they had proof. You said Evan showed them something. What was it? What did you see?" "It was his phone," she said, her voice cracking. "He showed it to Sergeant Barnes. He said it was from the security camera, the one he put in the kitchen last month. For safety, he said." "What did it show?" "Maya, a video." "No," she whispered, looking utterly broken. "It was a picture, just a picture. It was me. I was standing there, and I was holding the knife, and my eyes looked awful. Chloe, they looked crazy. He showed them, and he said, 'See,'" she finally snapped. "A picture, not a video. A single, static image. From a security camera that should have recorded hours of footage. And just like that, the entire terrifying, brilliant, and evil plan became crystal clear." My mind flashed to Evan's company, Auratech. I'd read the profiles, the glowing articles about Portland's homegrown tech genius. His company wasn't just data servers. They were leaders in generative artificial intelligence, in visual media, in image manipulation. He hadn't caught her in the act. He had staged the act. While she was unconscious, he had put that knife in her hand, posed her like a puppet, and taken a picture. Then he'd wounded himself and called the police, armed with a single, damning, and completely fraudulent piece of digital proof. I grabbed Maya's hands, my grip tight, stopping her trembling. I needed her to see the conviction in my eyes. Maya, stop talking. Not another word to them. Not to anyone. I'm calling my lawyer right now. You're going to be silent until he gets here. Do you understand me? Chloe. What? I don't. He drugged you, I said, the words cutting through the air. That picture is a lie. He's a tech CEO. Maya. His company builds worlds out of pixels. He built this one. I saw a tiny flicker of understanding, of hope, break through the fog in her eyes. Don't worry, I said, my voice a cold promise. Trust me, I'm getting you out of here. I left Maya in the cell after making a frantic, whispered call to my lawyer, telling him to get to the Tualatin precinct immediately. The fear was still coiling in my gut, but it was solidifying into something else now cold. Methodical anger. This was my world. A lie had been constructed, and it was my job to deconstruct it. I walked back out into the main waiting area. Evan was gone, likely giving a more detailed victim's statement somewhere private. Only Sergeant Barnes remained, finishing some paperwork at a desk. The adrenaline was gone, and I let my shoulders slump, deliberately changing my posture from confrontational to concerned relative. I approached him slowly. Sergeant. He looked up, his eyes still wary. I'm sorry for how I acted, I said, injecting a tremor into my voice. I'm in shock. My sister. She's not violent. She would never. Barnes's expression softened slightly. This was a script he understood. The denial of a grieving family member. I know this is hard, ma'am, he said, his tone shifting back to the paternal one he'd used with Evan. I just can't understand it, I continued, letting a tear well up. You said you had proof, visual confirmation. Please, if I can just see it, maybe I can understand. Maybe I can help her. I need to know what we're facing. He sighed, weighing the protocol against the request from the victim's sister-in-law. Evan was a big deal in this town. Impressing Evan's family was probably part of his calculus. Look, it's not pretty, he said. I don't care. I just need to see. He hesitated, then shrugged. All right. Just so you can see what we're dealing with. So, you know we're not making this up. He picked up a standard-issue police tablet from his desk, tapped the screen a few times, and turned it toward me. This was sent to us from Mr. Cole's phone, from his kitchen security feed. I held my breath, and then I saw it. It was exactly as Maya had described, and it was horrifying. The image was high resolution, sharp. It showed Maya from the waist up, captured from a high angle in her own kitchen. Her hair was a mess, falling across her face. Her eyes were wide, glassy, and stared directly at the camera with a look of manic, unfocused rage. Her arm was raised, and in her hand, she held a large, gleaming chef's knife. There was a slight motion blur on her arm, as if she had been captured mid-lunge. It was the most damning piece of evidence I had ever seen. For a second, my own conviction wavered. Could I be wrong? Could she have no... I forced my eyes away from Maya's face. I stopped being her sister and became the journalist. I looked at the picture not as a whole, but as a collection of details. I scanned the background, and there it was. Behind Maya, on the stainless steel microwave, was a digital clock. The green LEDs were bright and clear. The time read 2:04 a.m. My blood ran cold. Maya had called me at 2:17. From this precinct, after she had been arrested, after the police had arrived and separated her from Evan, the event, the arrest, the 911 call, it all had to have happened before 2:04 for this picture to be real. But that was impossible. The call log on my phone was irrefutable. She had called me at 2:17. My eyes snapped back to the photo, searching. The timeline was a crack. Now I needed to break it open. I looked at her hand. I'd held my sister's hand 1,000 times. I knew her long, artistic fingers. In the photo, her hand was wrong. She wasn't gripping the knife. The handle was just resting in her open palm, her fingers loosely curled around it. It was a pose. It was the way a mannequin would hold a prop. It wasn't the white-knuckled grip of someone in a violent rage, about to stab her husband. It was the limp, passive hand of someone unconscious. I looked up at Barnes, careful to keep my face a mask of horrified grief. It's a single picture, I asked, my voice trembling. Not a video. Barnes nodded, taking the tablet back. He clearly felt he had made his point. We only received this image file from Mr. Cole. He said the video file was too large to send easily and, frankly, too traumatic to watch right now. He'll provide the full footage to the DA later, of course, but this was more than enough to establish probable cause. It was a lie. A sloppy, arrogant lie. He didn't send the video because the video didn't exist. Or, more likely, the video would show exactly what happened, Evan carrying my drugged sister into the kitchen, placing the knife in her hand, posing her like a doll, and taking this picture with his phone. Then, he'd cut himself and dialed 911. I had him. I understand, I whispered, wiping away a fake tear. Thank you, Sergeant. You've been very helpful. He gave me a curt, self-satisfied nod and went back to his work, dismissing me. I walked back to the waiting area, my entire body humming with a new, terrifying energy. This wasn't just a domestic dispute. This wasn't a frame-up. This was a construction. Evan Cole hadn't just accused my sister of a crime. He had manufactured the evidence from thin air. My lawyer, Ben, arrived looking like he'd mainlined a pot of coffee. His suit rumpled, but his eyes sharp. It took 4 hours. 4 hours of procedural hell, of watching Ben argue with a bored night court judge over a video feed, of Evan's victim status preceding us at every turn. The bail was set at an astronomical figure, $50,000, for a domestic dispute, first offense, with a victim who had a minor, non-life-threatening wound. It was punitive. It was Evan, pulling strings from his cashmere throne. I paid it. I signed the papers, my hand steady, my signature a black, angry slash. Maya was processed out, given back her belongings in a clear plastic bag. She walked out of the steel door looking like a ghost, her movements stiff, her eyes still clouded from the drugs and the shock. I put my arm around her and steered her past the front desk, past Barnes, who watched us go with a look of cold disapproval. I didn't take her home. I took her to my place, a small, secure apartment in northwest Portland that Evan didn't have a key to. The sun was just beginning to stain the sky a watery gray as we crossed the bridge, the city waking up to a day that had already aged us by a decade. Maya didn't say a word the entire ride. She just stared out the window, her reflection a pale mask. I got her inside, sat her on my couch, and wrapped her in a blanket. She was still shivering. "I can't believe he would do this," she whispered, the words so quiet I barely heard them. It's not him. It's always been him. Maya, I said, my voice harder than I intended. You just weren't allowed to see it. She flinched, and I softened my tone. Get some rest, right here. You're safe. She curled up, and within minutes, the drugs and the exhaustion pulled her under into a twitchy, unrestful sleep. I watched her for a moment, the rage in my chest a cold, heavy weight. Then I went to my desk, opened my laptop, and went to work. My first call was to Sal. Sal is our digital forensics wizard at the Veritas Post, a guy who lives in a dark room and speaks in code but can find the digital fingerprint on a single deleted pixel. He picked up on the third ring, his voice gravelly. This had better be good. Chloe, it's, 6 in the morning. It's good, I said. I need you to analyze a photo, a piece of evidence in a criminal case. I think it's a fabrication, AI generated, or at least heavily manipulated. Okay. Easy. Send me the file and the metadata. I'll tell you its life story. That's the problem, I said, pacing my small living room. I don't have the file. I've only seen it on a cop's tablet. The man who faked it is a tech CEO, Evan Cole. Tech. Sal was silent for a moment. I heard him tapping on a keyboard. Cole. Right. The AI media guy. Ambitious. Okay. So he's not an amateur. This isn't just Photoshop. If he faked it, he did it right. A screenshot won't cut it. Chloe. I need the original file. The source. Without the source code, I can't prove manipulation. I hung up, my frustration mounting. The police had the file, but they were compromised. I was staring at a brick wall. I looked over at Maya, who was muttering in her sleep. How did Evan's mind work? He was arrogant. Arrogant men made mistakes. They kept trophies. The server, Maya mumbled, her eyes still closed. I froze. What, Maya? Her eyes fluttered open, still hazy. The server, she said, her voice clearer. He has a home server, a private one he built himself. He said it was for secret work projects. Everything backs up to it. The lights, the music, the cameras. He was so proud of it. Said it was more secure than the cloud. Of course, his arrogance. He wouldn't trust a third party with his masterpiece. He'd keep it all in-house. He'd have the original video. He'd have everything. My phone buzzed on the desk. An unknown number. I picked it up. This is Chloe. Ms. Reed, a voice said. It was falsely friendly, slick, like a car salesman. This is Detective Karras, Tualatin PD. I'm the lead investigator on your sister's case. My blood went cold. This was a new player. I just wanted to reach out, sister to sister, so to speak. I'm a family man myself. Look, what happened last night. It's a tragedy. These things get out of hand. I said nothing. Your sister, he continued. She's looking at a very serious felony assault charge. Now, given her history. She has no history, I snapped. Well, her instability, he corrected, smoothly. Mr. Cole is a very respected man. The visual evidence is rock solid. A jury will see that picture, and it's over. Case closed. He paused, letting the threat hang in the air. But Mr. Cole, he's a forgiving man. He doesn't want to see his wife in prison. He just wants her to get help. If she were to plead guilty, agree to, say, an inpatient treatment program, I think the DA would be very open to a deal. No jail time. Just help. It was a script, a pre-written, coordinated attack. Barnes had been the muscle, and this guy, Karras, was the friendly negotiator. They were Evan's friends. The entire precinct was protecting him. Thank you for your concern, Detective, I said, my voice pure ice. My sister has a lawyer. I hung up before he could say another word. I looked at Maya, who was now sitting up, awake, having heard every word. The fog was gone from her eyes, replaced by the same cold, hard anger that was in mine. He's right, she said, her voice quiet. Evan's going to bury me. No, I said, grabbing my keys. He's not. He's arrogant. He kept the evidence, and we're going to go get it. What's the password for the server? I asked. Maya didn't even hesitate. 1025. October 25th. The date Tech went public. The day he became a god in his own mind. His ultimate vanity. Good, I said. Okay, here's the plan. We couldn't just break in. The police would be on him in a second. We had to be invited. And he had to be there. I bought a high-speed, solid-state external drive, one big enough to hold a digital life. 4 terabytes. Then I coached Maya, walking her through the beats, the emotional cues. She was a terrible actress, which made her perfect for the role. She wasn't acting. She was channeling the genuine terror she'd felt for years. She made the call from my burner phone. I stood next to her, listening to Evan's voice on speaker. "Evan," she whispered, her voice cracking perfectly. "It's me." "Maya," he said. His voice was cold, guarded. "You shouldn't be calling me. You should be talking to your lawyer." I know. I'm just so scared." She let out a sob, a raw, broken sound that was utterly convincing. "I don't remember any of it. Everyone's saying I did it. I must have. Oh, God. Evan, I'm so sorry." I heard him sigh, a sound of impatient, self-satisfied martyrdom. "I know you are, Maya." "You're sick. You need help." "I do," she cried. I'll do whatever you want. That detective, Karis, he said you'd help me if I went to treatment. I'll go. I'll go right now. I need my things, my prescriptions, my anti-anxiety pills. I'm a mess. Evan, I need them. And some clothes." There was a long pause. He was considering it, enjoying it. "Please," she whispered. I can't do this without my medication." "All right," he said finally. "Fine. You can come. But I'm going to be here. Maya, I don't feel safe with you alone in my house." "I know," she said. "I understand. I'm at a support group. There's a woman here, a sponsor. Can she come with me? I'm not strong enough to be alone." Another pause. He was savoring his power. "Fine. Whatever. Just be here in 20 minutes. He hung up. I put on a pair of plain black slacks, a modest gray blouse, and nondescript glasses. I pulled my hair back into a severe bun. I was no longer Chloe Reed, journalist. I was Sarah, a concerned, slightly judgmental therapy group volunteer. The drive back to that house was the longest of my life. Maya was vibrating with fear. "I can't do this. Chloe, he'll know. He'll see it on my face." "Yes, he will," I said, pulling up to the curb. "He'll see that you're terrified of him, which you are. Use it. Your job is to go to the bedroom, fall apart, and keep him there. Cry, yell, beg. I don't care. Just keep him occupied for as long as it takes. I need 5 minutes." We walked to the door. Evan opened it. He looked at me, his eyes scanning me with suspicion. His arm was in a tasteful black sling. "This is Sarah," Maya whispered, not meeting his eyes. "She's helping me." "Right," Evan said, his voice dripping with condescension. He stepped aside. "Get your things. Maya, I have a meeting." The house was cold, silent. He followed us in. "Bedroom's upstairs," he said to Maya, as if she were a stranger. Maya nodded, her face pale. She started up the stairs, and I made a move to follow. "Whoa," Evan said, putting his good hand on my arm. "You can wait here." "Of course," I said, my voice flat and professional. "We prefer to give our members space to process. I'll just be down here, should she need support." He grunted, satisfied, and followed Maya up the stairs. The second his footsteps disappeared down the hall, I moved. His office was on the first floor, just off the living room. The door was open. I slipped inside, my heart a trapped bird against my ribs. The room was immaculate, all glass and steel. In a brushed aluminum media closet, a rack of hard drives hummed softly. The server. I found the main admin port, my hands shaking so hard I could barely guide the USB-C cable. I plugged in the external drive. The server unit appeared on the desk monitor. I typed in the password, 1025, access granted. I found the Aura Home Security folder. Inside. Kitchen. My breath hitched. The folder was massive. Terabytes of data. He recorded everything. I selected the entire folder and dragged it to my external drive. The progress bar appeared. Estimating time remaining. Upstairs, I heard a sound. A muffled sob. Then Maya's voice, rising in theatrical panic. I can't find them, Evan. Where are they? You hid them, didn't you? You're trying to make me crazy. Good girl. The progress bar gave me an estimate 4 minutes. 4 minutes was an eternity. I watched the thin blue line creep across the screen. 10%, 20%. You're pathetic. Maya. Evan's voice, sharp and angry, carried down the hall. They're in the medicine cabinet, where they always are. No, they're not. You're lying. 30%, 40%. The hum of the server was the loudest sound in the world. Come on, come on. 60%, 70. I heard footsteps. Heavy. Coming down the hall. Not running, but measured. Suspicious. What the hell is she doing in there so long? She's probably stealing the silver. He was talking to himself. He was coming toward the office. 80%. The progress bar was agonizingly slow. 90. 95. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. I stared at the screen. 98. 99. The door handle turned. Copy complete! I yanked the drive out, the metal hot. I shoved it into the back of my waistband, just as the door swung open. Evan stood there, his eyes narrowed, his face a mask of rage. What are you doing in my office? I turned, clasping my hands in front of me, forcing a look of mild, professional confusion onto my face. I held his gaze. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just looking for the bathroom. This house is quite a maze. He stared at me, his eyes boring into mine, searching for the lie. Behind him, at the top of the stairs, Maya appeared, her face a perfect mask of tear-stained panic. Sarah, are you ready? I just want to go. I gave Evan one last, bland smile. Of course. Maya, I'm right here. I didn't breathe until we were 3 blocks away. I pulled the hard drive from my waistband, my hand shaking, the metal still warm. Maya was silent in the passenger seat, her face a pale, tear-streaked mask. I broke every speed limit driving to Sal's loft in the Pearl District. I didn't bother buzzing. I just hammered on his door until he opened it, his face a mess of sleepy confusion and irritation. Chloe, what the hell? I got it, I said, pushing past him. I got the server data. That woke him up. Sal's apartment was a cave of glowing monitors, wires snaking across the floor, the air smelling of ozone and old pizza. It was the safest place I could think of. You stole it, he said, his eyes wide. I retrieved it, I corrected, handing him the drive. He's compromised the Tualatin PD. This was the only way. Sal, to his credit, didn't ask any more questions. He was all business. He plugged the drive into his main rig, his fingers flying across the keyboard. A password prompt appeared. 1025, Maya whispered from the doorway. Sal typed it in. The drive unlocked. A clean directory of Evan's entire digital life popped up on the main 40-inch monitor. My God, Sal breathed, looking at the file tree. He's got his whole life on here. Okay. You said kitchen security. He navigated to the Aura Home Security folder. Inside, a subfolder labeled Kitchen. We clicked it. It wasn't just a few clips. It was hundreds of hours of footage, neatly organized by date, non-stop, 24/7 surveillance. My stomach turned. He had been watching her. Always. Last night, I said, my voice hoarse. Around 1:30, 2. Sal found the file. Okay, it's a 3-hour continuous feed, starting at midnight. He double-clicked. The video filled the screen. It was the same high-angle shot from the photo, but now it was alive. The kitchen was quiet. We watched in fast-forward for a few minutes. Nothing. Just Evan walking in, getting a glass of water. Then, at 1:21 a.m., Maya walks in. She's in her pajamas, rubbing her temples. She's clearly in pain. Evan follows her in a moment later, all concern, wearing that same cashmere sweater. We watched, mesmerized, as the scene Maya described played out in perfect high-definition clarity. He puts his arm around her. He guides her to a stool at the island. He makes the tea. He hands it to her. "There," Maya whispered, pointing a trembling finger. "That's it." We watched her drink it. We watched Evan talk to her, smiling, rubbing her back. For 10 minutes, they just talk. Then, at 1:37 a.m., Maya's head slumps. She doesn't fall, she just lists to the side, her body going limp, her head resting on the cold granite countertop. Unconscious. Evan doesn't move for a full minute. He just watches her. Then he gently pushes her shoulder. She's out. Completely. "The bastard," Sal hissed. "What happened next will haunt me for the rest of my life." Evan's concerned husband persona vanished. His face went utterly blank, cold, and professional. He walked out of frame and returned a moment later wearing a pair of blue latex gloves. He went to the knife block. He selected the large chef's knife. He walked back to Maya. He uncurled her limp fingers and carefully placed the knife in her hand. Her fingers wouldn't grip it, so he had to pose them, forcing her index finger onto the spine of the blade. It was exactly the wrong grip I'd seen in the photo. Then he took his own phone from his pocket. He lifted Maya's arm, the knife dangling from her passive hand. He aimed her arm toward where he would later be standing. He leaned back, held up his phone, and took a picture. Then he moved to another angle, and another. He took at least a dozen photos, adjusting the lighting, moving her hair out of her face to make her look crazier. He's posing her," Maya said, her voice a dead, hollow thing. But he wasn't done. That was the most shocking part. At 2:01 a.m., he finished his photo shoot. He carefully removed the knife from Maya's hand and placed it on the counter. He walked back to the knife block. He selected a different knife, a smaller, sharper paring knife. He stood in the middle of the kitchen, in full view of the camera. He took a deep breath, and then, with a calm, deliberate, and sickeningly precise motion, he drew the paring knife across his own forearm. It was deep. The blood welled up immediately, dark and thick. He let out a single sharp scream, a performance for a non-existent audience. He dropped the paring knife in the sink, grabbed a dish towel to staunch the bleeding, and with his other hand, dialed 911. We watched, in horrified silence, as he paced the kitchen, rehearsing his lines. "My wife, she attacked me. She's got a knife. Please, send someone." He did it to himself," I said. My mind couldn't process the sheer, cold-blooded calculation. "He did it all," Sal said, his face pale. He pointed to the monitor. He faked the attack. He faked the evidence. He framed her, from start to finish. He typed a few commands, and the metadata for the original photo file Evan had sent to the police popped up on another screen. And here it is. The proof. A single JPEG, created at 2:02 a.m. The file the cops have. It wasn't from a video. It was a photograph, staged, taken with his phone, while your sister was unconscious. I stared at the looping video, my stomach churning. Maya was rocking back and forth on the couch, making a low, wounded sound. I wanted to turn it off, to smash the monitor, to erase what we had just seen. But Sal was already back at the root directory, his face pale but his eyes alight with a kind of forensic hunger. "He's a monster," Sal said, his voice barely a whisper. "A meticulous, documenting monster." "What else did he document?" "Sal, we have enough," I said, my voice shaking. "We have the video. We have proof." "Do we?" he countered, not looking away from the screen. "We have proof he faked this one incident. What if this is practice? What if this is just what he does?" His mouse hovered over the directory, past home security, past Auratech code. He scrolled down to a file that was grayed out, almost invisible, a hidden directory. Bingo, he muttered. He ran a quick command, and the folder snapped into sharp focus. It was labeled Project Firefly. I looked at Maya. Her head shot up, her face a mask of sudden, sick comprehension. Firefly, she whispered. That was his name for me. When we first met, he said I was his firefly. My blood ran cold. This was his trophy case. Sal, open it. Password, Sal said. The prompt blinked on the screen. 1025. I tried. Access denied. Ignis, Maya said, her voice dead. His first company. The one that failed. He said it was the fire that forged him. IGNIS. Sal typed it in. Access granted. The folder opened. It was not work. It was a list of names. Each name was its own subfolder. Sarah Kendall, Emily Park, Marcus Donovan. Who are these people? I asked. Sal clicked on the first one. Sarah Kendall. The folder was a mirror of what he had on Maya, but older, more extensive. Audio files, secretly recorded arguments, GPS tracking logs, financial statements. He's been doing this for years. I breathed. It gets worse, Sal said. He found a video file labeled SK Office Theft. He played it. The footage was grainy, from an office security camera. It showed a woman, Sarah, sitting at her desk late at night, typing furiously. The screen showed her transferring a large sum of money from a company account to an offshore one. But look, Sal said, pausing the video. Look at the artifacts around her mouth, the unnatural way her eyes blink. A deep fake, I said, the word tasting like acid. An early one, Sal confirmed, but damn good. Good enough to fool a cursory review. He clicked another file in the same folder. It was a court document, a custody hearing. Sarah Kendall, fired for felony embezzlement, was declared an unfit mother and lost custody of her son 2 years ago. This was a digital graveyard. He had destroyed this woman's life. We checked the other folders. Emily Park, another ex-girlfriend, had her medical school application sabotaged with faked emails. Marcus Donovan, a business rival, had a folder full of manufactured evidence of corporate espionage. Evan Cole wasn't just an abuser. He was a predator, using his technology as a weapon to systematically eliminate anyone who crossed him. Then I saw it. At the bottom of the list, a folder created just 1 month ago. Maya divorce prep. My heart stopped. Sal, open it. He did. It wasn't surveillance. It was a strategy. A cold, multi-page document outlining a plan to divorce Maya. It detailed how he would void their prenuptial agreement by proving gross misconduct and instability. It had phases. Phase 1, documenting erratic behavior. Phase 2, isolating her from her support system. Phase 3, staging a public-facing incident to establish a pattern. And then, Phase 4, the final event, create irrefutable criminal evidence, file charges, use criminal conviction as leverage in divorce proceedings to seize all assets and retain primary ownership of the house. Last night wasn't an impulse. It wasn't an argument that got out of hand. It was the climax of his plan. He was going to send her to prison or a mental institution just to win a divorce. I looked at Maya. She was staring at the screen, her face white, but the tears were gone. She was just cold. The police, I said, my voice thick with rage. Barnes and Karras. They aren't just his friends. They're his accomplices. They're part of Phase 4. I knew, with chilling certainty, that the Tualatin precinct was a dead end. This was bigger. This was calculated. This was organized crime wearing a cashmere sweater. This isn't a domestic assault case, I said, pulling out my phone. This is conspiracy, wire fraud, interstate extortion. This is federal. I had a contact, an old source from a story I'd done on Russian hacking rings, a sharp, no-nonsense agent in the Portland field office. Sal, I said, my voice steady, my hands no longer shaking. Make 3 copies of that entire drive. 1 for you, 1 for me, and 1 for our new best friend. I dialed the number. Agent Riley, please. This is Chloe Reed. We haven't spoken in a while, but I have a story you're going to want to see. It involves Evan Cole, Aura Tech, and a hard drive that's about to blow this city wide open. Special Agent Riley was exactly as I remembered, all sharp angles and zero patience. She wore a severe black pantsuit and didn't smile once. We met in a sterile, windowless conference room in the federal building, a place that felt a million miles away from the Tualatin precinct. Maya sat beside me, silent, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Sal was patched in on a secure video call. We didn't give Riley the summary. We gave her the main event. Sal played the unedited, time-stamped video file from Evan's server on a massive screen. Riley watched, her face impassive. She watched Evan make the tea. She watched Maya collapse. She watched him put on the gloves, pose Maya with the knife, and take the photos. She watched him meticulously select a different knife, cut his own arm, and rehearse his 911 call. When the video ended, she was silent for a long time. The only sound in the room was the hum of the air conditioning. "Well," Riley said finally, her voice flat, "that's efficient." She turned to her colleagues. "What am I looking at? Use of a controlled substance to facilitate a crime, fabrication of evidence, conspiracy to commit perjury, wire fraud, given his use of digital communication to transmit the faked photo to the police, extortion, based on the Karis call." She looked back at us. "And that's just last night." She looked at the Project Firefly directory. This is a different level. This is RICO territory. This is a pattern of racketeering." She stood up. The machine had been activated. "He's arrogant," I said, leaning forward. "He's been protected by the local PD. He thinks he's untouchable." "He is," Riley said. "In Tualatin, he's not in my jurisdiction, and he just committed 6 federal crimes. But the video is a good start. His confession would be better. He's smart enough to claim the video was faked by you." "He'll talk," Maya said. It was the first time she'd spoken. Her voice was cold, clear, and absolutely steady. The fog was gone. The fear was gone. It had been burned away, leaving something hard and sharp in its place. Riley studied her. "You willing to help, Ms. Cole?" "I'm willing to do whatever it takes," Maya said. The plan was simple. Evan was convinced he had her. He had offered her a deal through Karis plead guilty, go to rehab, and he'd be the forgiving husband. We were going to take that deal. Maya was wired, a tiny microphone, a transmitter taped to her back. She sat in the passenger seat of my car, parked 2 blocks from the downtown cafe Evan had chosen. It was a public place, glass walls, lots of people. He'd feel safe there, in control. I wasn't in the car. I was in a dark, cramped surveillance van half a block away, headphones clamped over my ears, staring at a bank of monitors. Riley sat beside me, a picture of calm. "You ready?" Riley's voice in my ear, connected to Maya's earpiece. "Yes," Maya whispered back. We watched her get out of the car. We watched her walk into the cafe. Evan was already there, at a corner table, his sling prominent, sipping an espresso. He looked up, and a small, satisfied smile touched his lips as he saw her. She looked suitably broken, pale and frightened. She was a better actress than I'd ever known. She sat down. The audio crackled to life in my headset. "Evan," she whispered. We could hear her manufactured tremor. "Maya," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I'm glad you came. It's a big step." "I'll do it," she said, the words tumbling out. I'll go to rehab. I'll do whatever you want. I'll plead guilty. Just make it stop. Please. Can you withdraw the complaint?" He leaned back, steepling his fingers. He was enjoying this, the full, unconditional surrender. "Oh," Maya, he said, his voice laced with a performer's sadness. I can't just withdraw it. It's out of my hands. The state is involved. People saw the proof. Maya, the police, the DA. They all saw what you did. He shook his head. I'm the victim here. Remember. Maya put her head in her hands, her shoulders shaking. I don't remember, she choked out. That's the part that's killing me. I don't remember any of it. That picture. She looked up, her eyes wide and pleading. I don't remember holding it. Evan, how did you even get it? It's just a blank. Please, I need to know. This was the moment. My heart was in my throat. I could see Evan on the monitor, his gaze fixed on her. He saw a broken, pathetic woman begging for an answer only he could provide. His arrogance won. He leaned forward across the table, his voice dropping to a confidential, conspiratorial whisper. The microphone picked it up perfectly. It doesn't matter, he said, his voice a low, soothing purr. It doesn't matter what you remember. It only matters what they believe. And they believe the picture. All they see, Maya, all they will ever see, is an out-of-control wife who tried to kill her husband. And that's all that matters. Evan leaned back, the self-satisfied, condescending smile still on his face. He was a king, and she was his subject, begging for scraps. He was about to speak again, perhaps to grant his magnanimous forgiveness. But before he could, the door of the cafe glided open. It wasn't a barista. It wasn't a customer. It was Agent Riley. She was flanked by 2 other agents in dark, functional suits. They didn't rush. They didn't yell. They moved with a quiet, methodical certainty that silenced the cafe's morning chatter. Their eyes were locked on Evan. Evan's smile didn't fade. It froze. He looked from Riley to Maya. He saw her eyes, no longer frightened, but cold and clear. He saw her hand, no longer trembling, resting on the table. He finally saw the tiny, dark wire clipped to her collar. The trap had closed. Evan Cole, Riley said, her voice cutting through the hiss of the espresso machine. She held up her badge and credentials. You are under federal arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy to fabricate evidence, and aggravated assault by administering a controlled substance. The agents were on him before he could stand, pulling his arms behind his back. The performative black sling he was wearing was ripped away, revealing the perfectly healthy arm beneath. What is this? He snarled, his face turning a deep, blotchy red. This is insane. I am the victim. She attacked me. Did she... Evan. His head snapped toward the door. I was standing there, my phone held high, the camera's red light glowing. I was recording every single second of his public destruction. The mask of the concerned husband evaporated, and the raw, reptilian rage beneath was exposed. You! He roared, lunging against the agent's grip. You bitch! You did this. No, Evan, I said, stepping closer, my hand perfectly steady. You did, and we have the tapes. All of them. As they dragged him, sputtering and threatening, out of the cafe and onto the crowded sidewalk, my phone buzzed. A text from Sal. Phase 2. Go! At that exact moment, simultaneous raids were being executed. An FBI team was hitting the Auratech headquarters, seizing the mainframes, the digital heart of his entire operation, and a second team, led by agents from the Department of Justice, had walked into the Tualatin police precinct. Sergeant Barnes and Detective Karras were arrested at their desks. They were charged with conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and tampering with evidence in a federal investigation. We had the phone logs, we had the texts, we had the proof that they had deliberately lost the initial data requests and coached Evan to build his case, all in exchange for Auratech stock options. The story broke like a dam. I couldn't write it myself. It was the definition of a conflict of interest. I handed the entire 4 terabyte drive, the videos, the Project Firefly folder, and Evan's divorce plan to a trusted colleague at the Veritas Post. The headline went viral before noon. Tech CEO arrested for staging his own attack. FBI uncovers digital reign of terror. We released the video. We had to. We blurred Maya's face, but we showed all of him. We showed him drugging the tea. We showed him putting on the latex gloves. We showed him posing his unconscious wife like a grotesque doll. And we showed the 30-second high-definition clip of him calmly and precisely cutting his own arm, hissing in pain, and then immediately dialing 911. The empire of Evan Cole collapsed in less than 48 hours. Sarah Kendall's case was immediately reopened, the deep-fake evidence exposed. Marcus Donovan, the business rival, announced a $100 million lawsuit. The Aura Tech board fired Evan in a 3-sentence press release, and their stock was delisted by the end of the week. 2 days later, I was on my balcony, nursing a cup of coffee. The sun was just starting to burn through the persistent Portland marine layer. The air was cold, but clean. I heard the sliding glass door open and Maya stepped out, holding her own mug. She had been staying with me. For the first time in years, I'd heard her sleeping through the night without crying out. The color had returned to her face. She looked like herself again. She sat in the chair opposite me and picked up her phone from the table. A news alert had just appeared. "Bail denied," she read. Her voice was quiet, factual. "The judge ruled him an extreme flight risk and a danger to the community. He'll be held in federal custody until the trial." She didn't cheer. She didn't cry. She just stared at the notification for a long, silent moment. Then she pressed the power button, plunging the screen into darkness. She set the phone down on the table, face down. Maya picked up her coffee, leaned back in her chair, and turned her face toward the sun. She took a deep, shuddering breath of the cold morning air. And then, slowly, for the first time in a very long time, she smiled. She was free. Thank you so much for listening to this story. We want to know, where are you listening from right now? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts so we can all connect. If you love stories like this, please subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories and like this video. And if you really want to support the channel, hit that hype button so this story can be heard by more people.